Welcome and hello to this Seeds of Justice webcast. My name is Rocky Guzman. I'm the Director for Law and Policy of the Asian Research Institute for Environmental Law, ARIEL, and we're here in lovely Fiji to be doing this webcast on ocean governance in the Pacific. So today we are in Suva, and we are in the Pacific where livelihoods, the culture, everything is closely intertwined with the oceans. But as we also know, the oceans faces so many challenges right now: climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution. And we have to think of solutions to these problems, legal solutions, as well as policy and community-based solutions. So we're here to surface some of these thinking and solutions on how to protect our oceans and what needs to be done in the context of the Pacific for ocean governance. We are now joined here by two fantastic panelists from Palau as well as Fiji. We have Umai from Palau and Annie from Fiji, who will take us to what needs to be done for ocean governance in the Pacific. So let me start first with you, Umai. If you can tell more about yourself and the work that you do in Palau in ocean governance.
Thank you, Rocky. So my name is Umai Basilius. I am with the Palau Conservation Society. We are a conservation NGO focused on really building the capacity for our communities to steward their natural resources, oceans being one of them. And my program particularly, I work with both the national and local state governments to build the enabling frameworks for stewarding these resources. So I do sort of a mixed bag of work, if you will. And because we're a small nation of around 18 to 19,000 people, I'm a generalist. So I basically work where the need is. And currently the need is around climate change and how that's impacting our ocean resources.
Thank you so much, Umay. It's an honor to have you coming from Palau, which is a beautiful country in the Pacific, really known for its oceans and marine resources. And we also have here Annie with us. Can you tell us more about what the work that you do?
Bulvinaka, everyone. Hello to everyone that's tuning in. My name is Annie Tuisausau. I am, like my sister here from Palau, a lot of us wear multiple hats, and I have been heavily involved with a youth organization and also the Indigenous Peoples Advisory Group for the Pacific. So with the youth organization, I serve as the focal point person for the Climate Justice Working Group, going around the grassroots communities, talking about climate impacts and sort of contextualizing the language that we use in international and regional spaces for the betterment of our community and our people. And in regards to the ocean, we are Pacifica people. Our forefathers our fathers or generations before us were voyagers, so everything are intertwined. We cannot talk about the Fiji and the issue with the ocean without taking into consideration the issues of the oceans of other Pacific Island countries. So that's why we're here, and that's why the celebration of Oceans Day is important to each and every one of us.
Very well said. Thank you so much, Annie, for sharing that. We're really grateful to have Annie here with us, who's going to bring also the youth perspectives on the work that she does on climate justice, as well as on Indigenous knowledge and how that could be integrated. So again, thank you very much, Umay and Annie, for joining us here in this webcast. Now, we are in the month of June, and as many of people might know, June has so many oceans events happening. First, it's going to be World Ocean Day. That's on June 8th. And then we also have our ocean conference in Mombasa, Kenya, where leaders will be coming up for commitments on the oceans. So with all these things that are happening and everyone like in the world, leaders, civil society, governments, and the public coming in to like pitch together to protect the oceans, I wanted to draw your attention and focus on the Pacific perspective. So for the Pacific, Umay, I'll start with you. What does ocean justice look like for you? Can you share us what you envision when you think about ocean justice in the Pacific?
I suppose ocean justice means that our communities are able to receive the benefits of the oceans. And our communities realize that it's not enough to just receive benefits. We must manage and a just society with ocean justice, I suppose, is one where our communities have access to the support they need. And if that support is legal support, then that support is available. It may not always be that way, but it ought to be. And so ocean justice is when we can practice our traditions, when we are able to feed our families, and when we are able to be who we are in the space that we need to enjoy, which is for us in the Pacific,
Right.
very much includes the ocean space. And that is ocean justice.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Umai, for sharing that concept of ocean justice for you. So it's not just the benefits that can be distributed to those that depend on the oceans, but also like the access and the need for oceans and how it could be distributed and to enable the people who depend on them to continue protecting them for sustenance for the future. So thank you so much, Umai. And how about you, Annie? What does ocean justice look like for you?
I mean, I share the same sentiments. Ocean justice is not just something you talk about for the sake of talking about it. As Fijians, most of us are living in coastal areas. Most of us come from island. We're surrounded by ocean. It's not just some tourism advertisement where it's just makes it so beautiful. We eat, we breathe, and we live because of the ocean. It's like it gives us hope, it gives us life, because this is the only thing that's connected to us. The land is connected to us. Everything about the Fijian people is connected to the ocean. And as a young indigenous woman in this space, when we often go out in communities, when we introduce ourselves by sharing who you are, where you're from, maternally, paternally, linked to which villages, and what are your totems. What are the species within the ocean that identifies or connects with you as an indigenous person. So ocean justice is it's just fair to say that it's not just something you just talk about it, because we're not just talking about ourselves, we're talking about the species, the unidentified species that are out there in the ocean. We're talking about corals, we're talking about everything, because the ocean speaks to us. It's like Moana, the wave calls out to Moana, the ocean directs you to and that is the beauty of being an ocean advocate, because I'm not going to call Fiji home without the picture of this beautiful ocean behind me, or like the beauty of the environment. And these are living, breathing nature, and it talks to me directly. And to me, ocean justice is keeping what's alive. It's the sustainable of all these things that was God gifted to us. I can go on and on about ocean justice, but ocean justice specifically is giving back to the environment that has kept us for many generations and generations yet to come.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Annie. Really, really powerful words. We live because of the oceans. That just goes to show how intertwined everything is because of the Pacific Ocean, because of the oceans that we have right now. I love what you said. We live, we eat, we breathe because of the oceans. And that's why it's so important to protect it in the first place. So now I want to go to some of the developments in law at different levels: international legal developments, regional law, as well as national law. Are those enough? Like what's happening in the legal frameworks, what's evolving now? And what do you see are the gaps that we still need to do, we still need to fill in terms of legal protections and legal frameworks to protect our oceans? So maybe I'll start with Annie.
Yes. Okay. First of all, I would love to put out there that I appreciate the work of policy people behind the whole policy implementations and all this. And it's very important when a policy is implemented, it echoes the voices of traditional knowledge holders. It echoes the voices of community-based organization. It echoes the voices of people that faces the reality of this injustice that has been done to them. With that being said, I feel like the biggest gap is the language used. We are Fijians, we're Pacific Islanders, we're indigenous people. English is not our mother tongue. The way you define climate change is different from how my grandfather defines climate change. He defines climate change by the size of something, the root crop. He defines climate change by the migration of the seas, like the fishes. I think the biggest gap is not having people in the community to sit and have conversations with policy people, because it just makes sense. Like, you won't be able to put down your data, your research, and all this without the stories of the people that live the realities of these changes.
Yeah.
And also the biggest gap is, I think there's a lack of communications from the bottom, the top bottom approach. Instead, it's supposed to be a bottom top approach where, you can share knowledge, you can share this, see what works best for the community, see what works best for the government or for the different crop agencies out there. Because at the end of the day, we are all trying to have like a policy that benefits each and every one of us. You don't want to put out a policy that only benefits one party.
Right.
You want to put out a policy that benefits also the people that put you in that position in the first place. I'm talking about the governments in these cases. So I think the gap is communication, the presence of all parties. It's a hard conversation because you're not just writing things down for the sake of writing things down. You're writing things down because in the future, we are living in a very sensitive moment where everyone is just talking about climate change. Everyone is just talking about what needs to be done. And then the implementations of this policy is the biggest issue. So I think that is a gap. No one is having the conversation and bringing people together to have this conversation, because you want to echo the needs and the voices of our people in that policy. And the people also would want to know, what are you talking about up there, so that we know, we are aware, and we know what happens, what needs to be done further, or where can we improve as communities as well. Because it's a two-player. You don't just dance alone. You need a partner to dance with you. So in order for that to happen, we talk to the people up there, they talk to us, let's see, find a common ground, there's consensus, fine, everything's fine. But it's hard, because conversation changes, government changes, people change, priority also changes.
Yes, exactly.
Like,
Those are great, Annie. Thank you so much for sharing that. And those are the things, that really important things that need to be said and that need to be addressed, especially as we go into policy making and development of laws, whatever level that might be. These are really important things, and highlighting the gaps to address them, like language, communications, and importantly, getting everyone a seat on the table, the people that really need to be integrated in this process. So that's very important and has to be highlighted as well. So I'll go to you, Umay. So what do you think are the developments that you want to share in national, regional, internationally, and what the gaps might be?
So I think for the Pacific, we've done a terrific job of articulating what we expect ocean governance to be, what the desired end goal is for ourselves. It's in the application that we need a lot of support, and probably time too. A lot of these frameworks are new, relatively new, and we can't expect them to be sort of producing results, because there's a whole backlog of things that need to be fixed, coordination amongst agencies, different sectors, institutions that need to be strengthened, capacities that need to be developed. But we're on the right track. Our governments are having these conversations. Civil society is having these conversations. So maybe it's not so much a gap, but it's really, where do we start working with one another? How do we sort of prioritize the actions that need to be taken, so that the incremental steps that will take us to where we want to be actually happen?
Thank you, Umay. First off, that's great to hear that the Pacific has been doing a terrific job on evolving these legal frameworks, and that's something that other jurisdictions can look up to as well as they evolve theirs. But again, time and coming together, dialogue, these are all like practical issues that need to be addressed and considered to really ensure that we implement this effectively on the ground. And I think that takes a lot of time and work together, collaboration, synergies. And I think, yeah, together as a network, we can like really, really work on that as well, right? So I want to go now to the discussion on customary law, indigenous knowledge, traditional knowledge, and community-based rules, which I know is very, very important and integral to the conversation on ocean governance in the Pacific. So I want to start with you, Mai, first. Like, how do you think can we better, integrate traditional knowledge, customary law, traditional rules, and community-based, initiatives and rules in the ocean governance in the Pacific?
I think where we can really find learnings is in the practice, because though traditional practices have persisted over the long term, and that means they're doing something right. So if you're going to be if sometimes it's difficult to reconcile traditional governance structures with more modern constitutional Western governance. But I think a middle ground is sort of looking at traditional practices as maybe the beginnings of standard operating procedures. Practices that can be sort of institutionalized in marine resource agencies that have to engage in conservation practices or natural resource management practices. That's probably where it would sort of be easier to mix the two. But again, culture is not written in stone, it changes. And so climate change is sort of putting a little twist to what we know and what we've observed over the time. And so today's hybrid of traditional and modern is some generations from now, TEK. So who knows? But I think there is a lot of lessons that we can learn from what our ancestors have done and known. And, imagine, I hope that our leaders and even agencies are open to that. And I think they are.
Valuable insights and really important lessons that we can take in. Oh my, really important. There might be a seeming, it may be seemingly hard to reconcile legal frameworks and traditional knowledge, but you have shared a lot of like practical solutions and recommendations where we have to respect traditional knowledge. It's important. It's actually a non-negotiable, especially in the Pacific, where it's so important to really integrate culture and tradition in every aspect of governance. Now, how about you, Annie, from your perspective in work in Fiji?
Oh, man. So last week I was at a conference and I've learned something very valuable when someone told me traditional knowledge is intangible, and for us in the Pacific, the data collection of how this knowledge transferred, we didn't write it. Were passed on through generations by songs, hymns, chants, mekes, and in terms of the environment, we had stories of how root crops were kept by the designs of masses, how each maps were weaved, and all this. And these are all traditional knowledge. And like she said, as time changes, some of this knowledge are going to be incorporated with the modern ways of living and how you do all this. But I believe there is a way where some aspects, and there's only a few number of people that are alive that are, I'd say, the people that hold valuable knowledge of our Vanua. And Vanua to us in translation is our land. The revival of this knowledge. Because we have all these technologies, we've got young people that are interested in learning about the different traditional knowledge that we have. Why don't we bring them together for intergenerational conversation and have the presence of the decision makers like government, different agencies, let them sit together, have like this town hall session, but make sure it is captured, because that's the only way we can work together with the traditional knowledge and the modern ways of living, capturing the moments of this Talna session. And our elders are sharing with us valuable knowledge. But with that in mind, we also have to be aware of who we're sharing this knowledge to so that it doesn't become extractive.
Right.
It doesn't become another issue of intellectual property where people take advantage. And it has happened in the Pacific where people have taken advantage of this knowledge and used it for their own benefits. There's two ways of having this conversation, we'd love to share the knowledge, but we are also aware, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Is it going to be extractive? Are we going to lose our identity because everything about us has been shared across? So it's sort of like a two-way thing. Like, yes, I'd love to share this knowledge with you, but I'm also mindful, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to take advantage? Are you going to swing it the other way? And it bounces back. So I feel like there are ways where we can move forward. There are ways where we can revive and keep this sort of like a data storage of this different traditional knowledge and different practices. Because our elders from the village that I come from, there are certain ways to do things. There are certain ways to do fishing. There are certain ways to plant. And the Fijian calendar, we have a Fijian calendar. Each month has different season, like the Vula. The months are called Vula. So those were the calendars of our ancestors. But it wasn't incorporated in our education system, and younger generations don't even know what the different months means. Like, they don't know when the season of this is coming. Even the fisheries have like their own calendar. Like, you're not supposed to eat this particular fish during this period of time. Sort of like a conservation sort of ish thing, if it makes sense. But that's what I'm saying. In order for us to pass this traditional knowledge, we are to be mindful as well.
Right.
Who are we giving this knowledge to? It feels like an extractive situation where you just come and extract and then go make it another beautiful research policy-ish looking document. We don't want that to happen, Yeah.
Thank you so much. Really important to highlight this discussion. What you said was really important as well, and something to consider, that traditional knowledge is intangible. It might be hard from the outset and how to manage that, but there are practical ways of respecting traditional knowledge as we go into the digital frameworks, and being mindful is very important, and how it's used, very, very important. And you mentioned Talanoa, that's very important for the Pacific. People coming together and learning, sharing their insights and learnings and knowledge from the elders and from each other is very important to have that conversation, to move forward and respect knowledge and how it should be respected in the Pacific. So again, thank you so much, Annie. I now want to talk about, like, with all the developments here and all the challenges that the oceans face, how do you think should civil society play a role in all the things in ocean governance that's happening now, and what needs to be done? So it's a big question, there's a lot of issues and challenges, but how can civil society be most effective, and what can they do? Maybe I'll start with you again, Annie.
Well, because I've worked with youth organization, I feel like the number one priority for us is to tap into organization that does the work, because we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We don't want to be that youth. So there's upcoming generations that want to sort of like modernize and recreate this wheel. Like, there are people that have already done this work. Why don't we just tap into the organization to do the same thing? I feel like for civil society organization, and I hope this is not sort of like, I don't get attacked for this, but in reality, civil society organizations do the work, but it depends on the priorities of the organization. It also depends on the availability of your funding, and the availability of the specialized people that are going to do this work. For most of us we're volunteering in these spaces. I'll say this because I'm in this situation where I want to do so much. I exhaust myself, my energy into these spaces without actually thinking about, I could have just tapped into this particular organization to help me out because I cannot do this without their help. And I think that's like a curve for us because we'll have to start mapping out the different civil society organizations out there that are doing the work, and we just want to be included and maybe see where we can work. We've got the energy, we've got the people. Maybe just let us allow us to work with you. If the funding are limited, partner up. And civil society people do the work. They are like the middleman of conversations, and they're like that bridge that the community wants. And I've heard over the years that, oh, it's just another civil society organization making noises. We are making noises because we feel like no one is listening to us, and no one is listening to the people. But also, like with that, it comes the heavy responsibility. You don't want to overpromise people that you're gonna do this. So I feel like that's something I personally wouldn't want to put my situation in again, where I feel like, okay, their needs need to be heard. So what am I going to do? What I can do is tap to the organization that is doing the work of, because we're youth, we don't know everything. We need that intergenerational conversation. We need to know who's this aunties and uncle organization that can help out these young people for us to move forward. Because when we talk about civil society, everything comes in. We have to talk about the biggest player in the ground or in communities, which is the faith-based organization. How do we work together to talk about ocean conservation,
Right.
or issues around the environment and stuff? They need to be present too, And I feel like that is something most of us can take with us, like now, and I think a lot of it are changing within Fiji. We are now reaching out to organization that has the resources, and that is, I feel like, if that's not within the scope of your question, it's just something I feel like I wanted to share.
Very important.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Annie. That was like really, really great to hear and needed to be said, really. No, it's great that you said like civil society and the youth in particular have the energy, have the enthusiasm and the drive, but civil society is also faced with the lack of resources, and I think that's something that needs to be addressed. And I love how you highlighted that we can work together more effectively if we draw strength from each other, if we work each other. That synergy will be very important to get things done and be more effective in the work that we do, especially in the face of limited resources, right? So thank you for sharing that. How about you, Maya? What do you think of civil society?
Well, I'm going to be preaching to the choir. So I think civil society really, when it comes to things like ocean governance, they have a legitimacy in communities because they're not perceived as having an axe to grind, if you will. It's not that they sort of developed a policy, because that's the government's job. And so it's a powerful position, and it requires civil society to really be mindful of that. But I think also one of the very important things about civil society is that we are necessary to the development of our countries. Right now, you hear a lot of whole of government, whole of society approach. And we are in large part the society part of that sentence. And so we are necessary. Sometimes we are not very appreciated, but we're fighting the good fight and we're hanging in there. And it takes all of us to get us to where we need to be. And so we're a necessary part of that journey.
Really important. Civil society is necessary to a nation's development, and sometimes people might not appreciate that much, but that's the reality, right?
Yes.
You can't have society without civil society.
Very true.
Great. Now, as we end this webcast on ocean governance, a lot of people watching might be interested in what can we do? We're watching, or we might not be part of civil society or government, or we could be in different fields, but we care so much for the oceans and we want to protect it. So I want to ask you, like, how can individuals, how can any person, anyone watching here, play a role in protecting the oceans, the ocean governance, and sustainability for our oceans? So what can you tell them now? Start with you, Annie, please.
Oh, uh, my biggest message would be you don't have to be from the Pacific to stop talking about the ocean. Because if you look at the Earth, we're surrounded by ocean, so we are probably linked to each other through the ocean. Our fish migrate, so who knows? The fishes that are here in the Pacific could be from wherever you're watching from. But with that said, like this journey of protecting Mother Nature is not the fight for Pacific people alone. It's the fight for every individual out there, whether it affects you directly or indirectly. At the end of the day, we will always echo each other's voices. Maybe if you want to learn more, there's always websites for it. There's Uncle Google, Mr. TikTok out there that talks about how it is important for us to talk about this issue, because not only the Pacific depends on the coastal living, not only Fijians that depends on this, not only us that are connected to this, we are all connected to it. You guys go out to picnics. You'll probably love the ocean or the views much more than some of us do. And it's a when we talk about gender justice, everyone jumps into the conversation of gender justice. Why can't we just do that? Because there's no freedom without echoing the voices of everyone that are fighting for this justice. So I'm gonna end there with, please remember us in the conversation in the spaces that you are in. Talk about us, because we cannot be represented if we are not represented in the rooms that you're in. Remember us, think of us, and we'll do the same. Just how we do it all the time in civil society spaces. We don't talk about the Pacific without echoing the voices of our brothers and sisters in the African continent. We don't talk about the Pacific without keeping the voices of our small island developing states like the Latin American Caribbean. We don't talk about freedom without echoing the voices of people that are actually suffering from the genocide. So I'm just gonna end there, like, think of us, because we only have like one Mother Earth, and let's just protect the mother that has protected us over the past few generations.
Really, 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 thank you so much, Annie, for those inspiring words and really listening to what needs to be, what anyone can do to protect Mother Earth and our oceans, and really, really emphasizing that this fight is not the Pacific's fight alone. It's the fight of all of us, each and every one of us, for our life and for our future. And now, Umay, anyone listening here, what's you say?
So if you don't have as much energy as Annie and you're like me, there are practical things you can do. Don't use single-use plastics, because most likely they're going to end up in the ocean. If you're going to be out on the beach, there are sunscreen that you can buy that won't harm the corals. And if you're going to be eating fish, it's always good to know where it's coming from, and if it was sustainably sourced. So there are practical things that you can do that don't require a lot of change in your everyday life, but it's impactful. So fight the good fight, folks.
Fight the good fight. Practical things we can do to protect. It all adds up in the end.
Yes, it does.
So again, thank you so much, Umay, and thank you so much, Annie, for this fantastic conversation on ocean governance and how we can protect Mother Earth, starting here from the Pacific, but all over the globe as well, protecting Earth. So I will end there. Again, thank you so much to Umay and Annie. We are coming and calling here from Fiji, the beautiful islands of Fiji, just by the oceans, and we are inspired by the oceans every day. The oceans give us life, and it gives us our future. So again, thank you very much for watching this episode of Seeds of Justice. I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.
Bye.